And in fact, that's what the developer's goal is, through this method, to truly understand whether or not there's demand, because certainly you don't want to spend this much money on a site you're not going to continue, to develop.
So that reminds me of one thing. I think it was my survey of real estate development class this last fall. So if anybody was in there, was on this team, I don't know how to defend you. But on one of the projects, it was determined that it wasn't really feasible, and because the return would have been too low, and so the kind of no-go question was asked at the very end, and it was, well, we would not do this because it wouldn't be feasible. Which I think makes sense, but what I'm hoping for here is that you would do something that is feasible or has the highest and best use, even if it's a small something or other. I'd like to see something that you can support and promote and recommend rather than something you kind of throw out and run all the numbers and say, hey, this is kind of what we did, but it doesn't seem feasible. So if anybody was on that team, I'm sorry, I thought it was a great presentation. I just, I'm hoping that we have a different approach here.
Yeah, so, and this is demand specific we're talking about. This is really just determining if there's demand. And on a real life project, developers will use this method to know whether or not they should continue looking at their product on this site or they should move to another. So to kind of help you get started, because again, to try and dive into each product type would be really cumbersome, and I would hope that you could find the value of reaching out to those developers that are going to give you good information on your site. But if you were looking at a retail, for example, with a grocer and a couple pads, some inline retail as well that would go along with that, something that I learned from talking to a developer is that the grocer is going to come first. They're going to use a gravity model that you're going to want, have an understanding for if you're doing a retail such as this. Also, with grocers, they want to know food dollars. Is there enough money being spent on food? $20 to $50 per person per week. They'll need a minimum population of 15,000 in a 3-mile radius. The sales would typically need to be $20 million or more to justify a store. They're going to use, again, this demographic and GIS software to map out where their competition is and to make sure that they aren't cannibalizing, which is extremely important in slow markets like this, that they don't take business from other stores that are doing well. On the office side, pre-lease, that's the best indicator for office. If you can't get it pre-leased, then there are some other ways that you can look and hopefully find that there's a market for your product. That's comparing absorption and occupancy. Occupancy above 95% in a submarket will typically mean that there's some room to build. And then the other thing you want to do is compare rental rates and construction costs. So there's 2 scenarios. This scenario would be the purchase of an existing office building. We're assuming that the NOI is $1.2 million and the purchase price of $14 million, which would give us a cap of 8.57%. You want to know what existing buildings around you could be selling for and what the cap rates would be so that you can compare them to your new construction. If you were to have market rents of $17 per square foot and your all-in construction costs, including land acquisition, soft costs, everything, for $200 a square foot, that would give you an 8.5 cap. So, does it really justify coming on line with a new product? There's some other factors you want to consider. Is this building, what's the occupancy here? 80%, 60%, 90%, 100%? The occupancy here will help you to know whether or not this justifies it. Typically, if you're going to start a new construction and you're not fully pre-leased, you're going to want to have a much better gap between these cap rates so so that justifies the additional risk.
Going back to your office example, your bullet point number 3.
Yeah.
Project I'm working on financing right now is up there on Old Mill area, right there on 6300 South and 30 East. And that whole market is between 95, well, it's 95 to 100%. And then they've got one other building that is under planning, kind of around the market, and I was thinking financing, but there's no other ground up there other than, I guess, the ground pit and that kind of place where the Utah parks their vehicles. But it's kind of an interesting, supply and demand.
Right. So, and assuming that the buildings are online, even better, if they're in worse shape than the one that you're bringing online, it's an even better indicator that you have a good shot at your office building. For residential, Terry went through an exercise. He works for Woodside Homes. Started there about 2 months ago. And he came up with this, so some of it, bear with me if I don't know all of what he's trying to show us. This portion here, though, you probably have seen this in Flynn's class. Essentially, it's a way to figure out what home prices should we shoot for in the area. I'll go through it quickly. If there's questions, I guess you can ask those. Essentially, you're taking the maximum housing expenses. It's the annual salary, median household income in your area. Break that down on a monthly basis, and then you assume roughly what a bank would be willing to loan on, as a portion of your income. So that gives you your loan amount, and assuming a down payment of 5%, $363,000 for the American Fork area. Then your rates can fluctuate. So as we see rate increases, which is likely to happen over the coming years, it gives you a feel for what buying power they'll have, what purchase price they'll be able to buy your at. So if you're, for example, assuming that it's going to take 5 years to build a home, you may not want to build homes in this price range. You may want to look more at homes in this price range with the anticipation that rates are going to increase in the next 5 years. The job to permit ratio, that's another interesting way that Woodside Homes figure out whether or not there's a demand for single-family housing. They look at the employment growth for 2013. It's the number of net job creation. So in this case, 18.5. The number of permits. So permits are for houses, obviously. Permits being pulled. And then the job to permit ratio. Anything over 1 would indicate demand for single-family housing. This is another way to do it. What we're essentially finding out is from our competitors, what is their cost at 0 square feet, so that as we look at a 2,000 square foot building, we can figure out, all right, so this is how much we know how much the cost is to build a 2,000 square foot. So what's their overhead and land price, basically, is what we're trying to figure out. Essentially, it comes down to this price of 0 square feet unit. So $267,837 is what the builders are into that house before they've even started construction. Does that make sense? And then as, of course, you get a bigger home, then you can kind of figure out their gap between those.
So that's assuming, I think, and again, probably shouldn't ask too many questions.
No, that's okay.
But
Do my best from what he explained.
this is a higher end neighborhood or bigger parcel sizes, because I'm thinking that's not Rose Park, You're not selling homes for that in Rose Park. People will imagine.
Yeah. I wonder if he used it, if it's all hypothetical. We know that this information, he told me that this is specific to American Fork area, but this information, I don't know prices and the square feet on a line, and then through a trend line, we're able to figure out. So location, that's a good lead to the next one. What drives demand for your product? Like I was mentioning with the Southern Davis County, upon studying the demographics over there, we know that people are driving south more than they're driving north from that northern point of Farmington. So what's driving traffic? Are there synergies nearby? Are there retailers that can complement? Are there post office or churches or temples or whatever it may be that's going to draw traffic to nearby your site? Freeway off-ramps, proximity to rail for industrial. These are some of the things that you want to consider in your demand analysis, because it's not always black and white, right? It's not just demand minus supply, boom, we're done. There's a lot of factors that will go into that. This is a good help for you guys. UDOT has an average annual daily traffic that they sync with Google. I didn't try this before. I don't know if you have it or not. I know. Oh. Okay. So, for example, these are all the traffic lights. Can't see. This road then, Pioneer Crossing, for example, you can click on that and you can see that there's 25,640 average annual daily traffic on that site. That can also be a helpful tool for you when you're looking at demand. How much visibility is your product going to get? That's just on UDOT's website. UDOT.gov, .utah.gov, this kind of search right here. Other indicators, occupancy. This is important. We already talked a little bit about occupancy. I would recommend, at the very least, that you cold call your competitors. That's how we did it with the real estate challenge. We just cold call everyone and find out how many beds they had available. Absorption is important. Developers can tell you how quickly their products are absorbing, and rental rates can be found from brokers. Then, after you figured out your demand and got a good feel for whether or not your product